Hello, everybody, and welcome to our After Church Tea Time. I'm joined today by Leanna and Diana. So, ladies, I don't know if you'd like to introduce yourselves or if that's good. And we're going to be talking about the sermon by Adam and Brienne on relationships and the power of boundaries in relationships. So, for me, I think the thing that really stood out is just I feel like at some point the concept of boundaries actually felt like it would have been more difficult than normal. But in going through it, I feel like we do it so often. It's literally what Adam and Brienne shared is that we actually know the concept. It's always kind of been something that we've done. It's the way we engage with each other and relationships and life. And so, it's not as foreign as what it initially felt like. So I don't know how the two of you feel about that, just kind of taking a step back and realizing the simplicity of how and what boundaries are.
Yes, I totally agree. And I feel like this is like always a relevant topic, this discussion on boundaries and in relationships. And for me, I've been learning a lot, especially like in MAP, in the mind alignment process on how to set those boundaries and go deeper with God in that. And I feel like what really stood out for me in the sermon is when Brianne and Adam talked about like how to respond when a boundary is placed on you and you are upset about it, right? And it's really just about, going within to recognize where, boundaries may not, where you've kind of been lacking in setting your own boundaries. Right. And I feel like in the beginning, that was really triggering for me, especially in my twin flame journey, being blocked or not having any kind of communication. Like Brianne was saying, it's really a boundary that God is placing to say, hey, this person is not your source. I am, and you can't get what you're looking for from outside of you or from this person. You have to go within, you have to find me. And so that's been a really big lesson for me. And as I kind of go deeper in that, I'm learning how to, set boundaries for myself as well as outside of myself, recognizing that I'm not anybody's source. God is the source. And so when you kind of look at it from or come from that space, I feel like it gets a lot easier to set the boundaries, when you recognize the truth in that.
Yeah, for me, like when I think of that we already know boundaries, then I really think of my childhood, how I already tried to put boundaries in. Yeah, maybe if I do it right now, it wouldn't work, but back then I used that. So it's really, really natural. And yeah, we're just learning to, put boundaries to the right direction, let's say that. Like, like I'm not your source, and I feel for me, at least that's the biggest thing we're all learning to. Yeah, when someone thinks you are their source, or you are thinking someone else is their source, then that's the biggest boundary I feel we're practicing and learning.
Yeah, and I like that both of you have brought it up in terms of not being somebody else's source and also not having somebody else be your source. And I think, sometimes, and in the past, it was a thing of, trying to rescue people from themselves and putting in energy into places that probably wasn't required or wasn't appreciated, to be perfectly honest. And, for me, it was a journey of learning to realize that actually people are self-sufficient. And if they aren't, I can help them, I can help to teach them to become self-sufficient. But I can't solve the problem for them. And I shouldn't be solving the problem for them. And so I think that that's really been one of my bigger lessons, is that you get in the way of somebody's lesson when you solve their problem for them. So I think that for me was probably the biggest learning in terms of how to set boundaries in a healthy, comfortable, peaceful way. Because it wasn't a situation of like saying no, it was more a situation of like, well, why do you persist in this way? And why am I persisting in trying to solve people's problems? And, it's just as simple as we all have God, and we all need to connect with God as our source. And we all have our vibration of, well, we all have to clean up the vibration of what's happening around us. Well, we can't do that when we are permanently stepping into that place, or somebody else is permanently stepping into that place. It's not an ideal situation for learning. So I think that's really been my bigger lesson in terms of becoming comfortable with saying, okay, well, this is not appropriate. You need to do this yourself. I'll walk this path with you, but I can't solve the problem for you. And in the beginning, as Adam said, it was like, it's uncomfortable sometimes. It's not an easy conversation when you've actually been doing something in a certain way for so long, and then you have to change track. And you kind of just see the glitchy mind thing happening, and not only for other people but for yourself. Like your mind does this, like, what's going on? Like proper glitchy, shaky matrix kind of stuff. But it's literally about breaking those patterns. And I have had to learn to break that pattern over and over again, like Adam said, and it wasn't as it literally wasn't going no, left, right, and center, but it was also, it was a situation of like, I don't think that's okay. Like, no, I don't think that's okay. You do it. I'll be there next to you. I'll even give you advice, but you do it. It was such a shift for me, because like I grew up in a home where it was a situation of like, you like helping others is actually being close to God. It was a thing that we learned. But there came a time where help wasn't the appropriate thing. There came a time where I was overextending myself because of wanting to help all the time.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And I relate a lot to that. It reminds me of like this people pleaser kind of mentality, or like identity, because like when you grow up with that belief that you receive love, when you please others and you overextend yourself and give to others, and that's how you receive love. And when you start to identify as that, it gets really difficult to break that pattern and to break that cycle. Like you were saying, like it can be really uncomfortable to all of a sudden start saying no, or to all of a sudden stop extending yourself like this, because it's like, well, where am I gonna get my love if I'm not pleasing others and I'm not giving myself to others? How am I going to receive that love? And I think the teachings, right? These teachings from Jeff and Shaleia do an excellent job of redirecting us back to God, right? Like we really have to, it's almost like an identity shift. Like who we thought we were, it may not be completely accurate, right? And the way we are used to receiving love is not actually love. It's more of overextending boundaries and things like that. It's actually taking from us. We're not actually receiving God's real love. And so, as we learn the teachings and as we choose to connect closer to who God really is, it's completely different. And yeah, it can be so uncomfortable to start setting those boundaries, and so uncomfortable to change the way we think, right? Like you were saying, like the glitches in the brain, like what? I'm not used to this. It's so weird and different. But I think that's a part of the process. And it's actually like a sign, that you're in the right direction, because it can be like an identity shift to suddenly relate to yourself in that way, relate to God and not to like this people pleaser or this self-sacrificing sort of identity that you've cultivated because of your environment.
Yeah, I relate a lot to this identity crisis with the people pleasing, because I have in my journey, I received from God a lot of boundaries there, and was really confusing because I thought, well, that is love, and how can I then feel this communication that I'm very unloving and not loving at all. And I was really like, kind of a crisis, like, but that was actually love. Like, no, um, don't give so much of yourself. That is not loving at all. It's just redirecting to myself. And yeah, when I surrendered that, I felt much better. So, and it can be indeed a journey, but can be a journey also, to receive this boundary, to feel really safe with that, to just accept it, and then accept where you're being redirected to. Yeah.
I like that you brought up the safety thing as well, because, like I've kind of been observing it with my friends raising their kids in terms of what they allow and what they don't allow. And I feel like actually with kids, they feel safer when they know what they can do and what they can't do. Like, and I feel like by extension, we've probably forgotten the concept a little bit, but it really does make us feel safe when we set boundaries, in terms of I'm much more comfortable, and in that being comfortable, I feel safer, because this is not okay, that's not okay, this is okay. It kind of feels like a level of security to not have everything flowing in all the time at the same time in ways that I don't appreciate, kind of stuff. And I didn't for the longest time equate boundaries with safety. I think for a long time, boundaries probably felt a little bit uncomfortable, because, as you said, Diana, it's that shift of identity, and like feeling people placing boundaries on me felt like almost an attack, because I didn't understand what they were at the time. And I didn't understand that actually I was also going outside of what made them feel safe. And I think, when we put it back in simple terms, it's so much more comfortable when you realize that actually this is feeding a sense of security. It's not taking from it, it actually feeds it. And it's a very comfortable shift once you realize the intention behind boundaries. It just makes life more comfortable. It makes your relationships more comfortable. And as I practice it, I just feel much better, because I don't have to constantly tell people no. I don't. It's not acceptable. Like takes away the drain of energy. It literally feels like an energy leak when you permanently have to address things, where if you just had a boundary, everybody would be on the same page. And so it would be easier to relate, and it would be easier to allow things to fall away where they needed to fall away. Because we also sometimes tend to hang on to friendships and relationships even when they don't feel comfortable and they don't feel good. And we tend to hang on because, like for me, again, I think it goes back to what you said, Jan, around like, where's my love gonna come from? You know, and back then I probably wouldn't even have put it in those terms. Like, it was just me really overextending myself. But now it's so much more comfortable because I don't have to address things that really don't, I know, that just don't feel good. So like, people now know what's okay for me, with me, around me, and what's not. And I'm not telling anybody how to live their lives. I'm just saying, not in my space. That's it. Just not in my space. Do what you want to, whenever you want to, just not in my space. I respect your space, you respect my space. It's really so much more comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah, I like what you said about like the boundaries, they are safer, right? Because the essence of a boundary is to choose your own peace, right? And so naturally in that you're going to feel safer than if you were resisting your peace or neglecting your sense of peace, right? And like Brianne and Adam were saying, boundaries are divine, boundaries are of God. And so when you act out of boundaries, or within boundaries, you're working with God in that space. And I also like what you said about, you know, when the boundaries are set, it's easier to relate to people. And I think one thing I've been working on is like the communication part of it, right? So I recognize that no is a complete sentence and I don't have to explain myself, right? But I also think, you know, when God calls and when it's helpful, you can also just communicate your intention to others. Like, and I'm kind of learning what that looks like in different situations, right? Like I'm saying no, or I'm placing a boundary here because of this, or this is my intention, or this is what I align with now, right? Because as I've been going deeper in the teachings, like I've been changing a lot, and the people around me, or internally, right? The outside kind of still looks the same, but inside I feel a lot of changes. And the people around me are recognizing it, and they're like, you know, what's going on? Like, you're not coming out with us as much, like you're saying no all the time. You know, tell us what's going on. And so I think communication is helpful in that space, and just kind of letting people know, like, this is the path that I'm on, this is my why, this is what I'm choosing, but not bending that in any kind of way. So I guess I kind of feel like, you know, there's a balance in saying no and allowing your no to be a complete sentence, but also if you're called to explain further, or you know, in terms of your relationship with others, when you're setting that boundary, it may also help to just kind of communicate you know, where you're at and your intentions to help the relationship flow in the direction that it's going to go regardless, right? Because I remember Brianne also said 2 things are going to happen when you set your boundary. You're either going to go deeper in your relationship, or, you know, the relationship will fade. And so being clear on your why and why you're setting this boundary will help to move that needle further along in terms of, is this person going to stay in my life or are they not?
And like that you talked about communication, because I feel like if you are communicating boundaries, then you're also sharing more of yourself, because some people like more space, other people like, for example, more friends or like, more connections. So it's different for everyone. So if you really communicate what you want, or like these boundaries, then people get to know you better, and know who you really are, and you get to know yourself better too. I love that. That was just coming up. And guys, that is why I loved Adam being talking about an example when a boundary was placed, but then removed again, because that was a way of going deeper. But it doesn't have to be like always like this boundary is there and it's
And did we lose? Did we lose Leanna?
Yeah, it's frozen. Looks frozen.
Okay, yeah. There you are, Leanna. You kind of your conversation cut out at the end of your sentence. So
okay.
yeah, we just thought we'd
It
lost you.
happens.
Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, I think both of you have raised a very important point in terms of the communication of boundaries. And Leanna, I think what you shared around just sharing yourself in terms of how you communicate your boundaries is actually quite a good thing. And it's true that it actually does tend to allow relationships to deepen more than anything else. But again, where they fade out, it's also okay. You know, like I've actually started to realize that it's okay. I don't have to hang on to it. It's literally what makes the relationship healthy is that communication. And so if that communication of a boundary allows for the relationship to fade away, then it wasn't really necessary anyway. And I think it's something that Brienne touched on when she shared, you know, like sometimes the relationship fades away and people go and they carry on their pattern in other places or in other ways. And I've learned over the years to allow that, you know, to let it comfortably deepen or not deepen, because literally that is our engagement. So if I'm saying this is not okay and somebody else is not accepting that, then it's okay for them to move on. It's okay for me to move on. And I feel like, you know, that communication does, for me, it's actually helped to create healthier relationships. For the reason that, you know, it's like kind of that thing about if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything. And so it's just helped to clean up those spaces and to realize what the value is in certain relationships, and if there is no real value there, that it's okay for it to go. But it, you know, it's like, it's literally, again, as you said, just it's okay to share your why without feeling like you need to explain yourself. And I think that that's kind of been part of the journey, is just saying, well, I'm not so comfortable with this for this reason. It doesn't make me feel comfortable. And so, no, you carry on, do what you need to do. I'll see you again. No, I won't see you. You know, it's one of those things. So I feel like it's really, for me, solidified more my relationships with the people that are still in my life. And the ones that have fallen away just made me realize how much of a drain those relationships were in the first place. And now that they're not around, it's like, actually, thank God. Thank you, Jesus. You know, like, there's peace in this place where there was noise before.
I really love that point about sharing yourself, right? Because like what I'm realizing also is that when I wasn't setting boundaries, it's almost like I was using it as like an excuse to hide, right? Kind of overextending myself and being the people pleaser and sacrificing my needs and wants just so I wouldn't have to face like who I really am and what I really want, right? Like I was so focused on what everyone else around me needed that I wasn't even paying attention to myself. And it was kind of like a way to hide. But then when you set those boundaries, like the word in itself kind of sounds like you're placing yourself in this kind of box, right? A boundary, but it's actually the opposite. And that once you set the boundary, you free yourself to actually express yourself and share yourself in the most divine way, because you're no longer taking from yourself through your lack of boundaries, you're giving to yourself. And so now you can really start to share yourself with the world. And so that it has been like the biggest kind of aha for me. It's like as I set more boundaries, now I'm more comfortable actually being myself, sharing myself, being seen, being heard, because like that boundary serves as my protection, right? It's a reflection of my relationship with God. And before that wasn't there. Before I was just kind of overextending myself and taking from myself, or allowing things outside of me to take. So there was no way I could actually be my true and authentic self in that unsafe space, right? So yeah, that's been a big aha moment for me.
Yeah, I love what you said about being free to be yourself. Because in my experience, when I don't have boundaries, I try to go everywhere in it, and then I feel totally confused, and I feel like I can't do anything, or then I identify with all these other things, and then like you said about hiding, I can see myself. And it's really good to say like, oh, this doesn't feel good, and then you are really, I really feel more freedom in that space, and when you share when you are free to share yourself, then you're still the thing that people wanted from you, like they actually wanted you to share yourself, but they try to take it from you, and now you can actually do it in a divine and free way. So there's nothing like going away. It's just in a much better way, and not from control, but from freedom.
Yeah, I like that. I really do like that. And the point around freedom that you've brought up is, for it's when it settles in and you start to feel more comfortable, you do feel more free. But the thing is, you don't actually realize that you weren't feeling free in the first place. It's such a bizarre but profound shift. Like the more you shift into yourself, the less you just accept everything that's thrown at you. And that actually does make you feel more free. And I think it's very much related to feeling secure enough to say, okay, no, this is not okay, this is okay. The whole component around when you're able to freely share yourself, you are actually free. And it's such a profound shift, but it's really subtle. Like 1 minute it's not there, and the next minute you kind of realize, hey, that felt good. but it was good because you were actually more free in being direct about what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And so you can relax. And I think the relaxation is something that we've kind of worked towards really hard. We work on it all the time, relaxing into who we are. But we can't really completely relax into ourselves if, as you said, Diana, there's parts that we're hiding. There's parts of things that we're not comfortable to address and to look at. And so the shift does become a lot more comfortable, but it's such a subtle thing. Like one day you realize that you actually just feel lighter. And it's because the noise that was even in your mind is dissipating as you heal. And I have found that, like I've found as I heal, like as my mind unclutters, I even feel the need to unclutter the space around me. And as I unclutter the space around me, I find that even the relationships around me, I feel like I need to unclutter. Like if something's not, if there's a niggle or a grind about something, I can heal it. And if it continues to come up, then I know I also need to address it. So it's quite cool. And I like what I think it's actually something that Adam shared in terms of you have to actually follow through. You have to take the guided action and you have to experience the shift. That's how we learn. And if we are not following through on those choices, we just continue to experience the same thing over and over and over until we do actually take the guided action. So, it's just something that comes up all the time in terms of there's the healing component, but then there's actually a follow-through step. And just making the choice alone isn't always enough. And sometimes it's completely not enough. Like things really do need to shift through action. So it was just nice that Adam and Brianne kind of also just reiterated to say, there is guided action. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to experience the contrast. You can make choices the whole day, but you still need to take the action. Otherwise, you are going to experience the contrast. And you will continue to experience the contrast until you've completed the cycle of taking the guided step.
Absolutely. That like the action piece is critical, right? Because it's like the homework. How can you complete the lesson if you're not actively applying the lesson, right? And like this whole thing about setting boundaries, it takes practice and it takes experience. Like it's not just something that happens overnight, especially when you've grown up in an environment where, you didn't learn it. So you literally are a baby in setting boundaries in some cases. And I really like the piece about, taking the action. And I think and Adam mentioned this as well, where I would get caught up is this action step the right action step? Or how do I know that I'm not going to regret it? Like, how do I know I'm not making the wrong decision here? And so I really love what Adam said about how you just have to choose to move forward, regardless, because not moving forward, that's the wrong decision. That's always going to be the wrong decision, like staying stagnant, right? But taking the action step, whether it's right or wrong, is always going to be the right choice. And because there's always a lesson in that, right? And as long as you're partnering with God, you're safe. You're always going to learn something from it and grow from it, regardless. And yeah, like Adam was saying, not taking the action is, worse than taking the action and finding out that you probably could have taken a different route, right? Well, now that you know, now you can take the new route and you can show others the new route, right? But you wouldn't be able to know that had you, stayed stuck. So yeah, I really like that piece as well.
Cool. So I just want to check in. How are you guys feeling? I'm feeling like we just about complete for today.
Same.
Okay, cool. So yeah, thank you to you too for the conversation, and thank you to everybody that has followed us. Also, we'd like to invite everybody to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you will find all our previous after church tea times and any other live conversations that have happened in our Unionism Spiritual Discussion group on Facebook. And we will see all of you pretty soon for another after church tea time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.